The very beginning of a design project is entirely fluid. Before a single physical resource is committed, anything is possible. But the moment you make that first concrete choice, you lock in the physical reality of the final object. In clothing, that initial, unalterable decision is the choice of material. It has to happen before anyone even drafts a pattern, because you have to choose what you are cutting before you can decide how to cut it. The fabric acts as the inescapable foundation for everything that follows. That single choice sets off a chain reaction. The material dictates the drape, which permanently determines the structural pattern. It establishes the base cost, which dictates the final retail price and limits who the target market will be. It dictates how it will wash, how it will age, and eventually how it will fail. And long before you consider the logistics of a runway show or consumer packaging, the fabric accounts for the vast majority of the final garment's environmental footprint. Any genuine attempt to lower the industry's footprint has to start with this specific upstream choice. Everything downstream is comparatively negotiable. Copenhagen Fashion Week is currently running its Spring-Summer 2027 season, and it operates with the most demanding admission gate in the modern fashion ecosystem. To secure a spot on the schedule, brands must submit detailed documentation to an external screening committee led by a global engineering firm. This diagram illustrates the structure of the framework they have to navigate. It is a massive matrix of 19 minimum standards that are mandatory, alongside 87 additional actions spread across 6 focus areas. The entire structure is explicitly designed to filter out unverified claims and serve as a rigorous, objective test of a brand's sustainability commitments. Yet, buried in the documentation for this season is a startling anomaly. 2 specific rules have been deliberately suspended. Looking back at our diagram, the missing pieces are minimum standards 6 and 7. These are the only 2 standards governing material preference. The organizers stated plainly why they made this omission. The global industry completely lacks consensus on what a better material actually is. The exact standards that govern the first and most consequential decision a designer makes are the only ones deemed impossible to enforce. A regulatory gate can only be as decisive as the consensus underneath it. Without a shared vocabulary for that initial choice, regulators can mandate show formats and consumer communication, but the core problem remains entirely untouched. This regulatory blind spot applies far beyond fashion. It is the universal reality of all physical product design. Without an industry consensus to enforce best practices, the entire burden of outcome quietly reverts back to the individual designer's raw judgment. Designers are forced to accurately predict that massive cascade of downstream consequences entirely on their own, well before any physical production actually begins. Altering a choice during the concept phase is effortless. Attempting to reverse that exact same choice once tooling and sourcing have begun is nearly impossible. True design intelligence means taking responsibility for generating your own clarity at the inception point, rather than waiting for an industry standard to save you. This is why Depix provides the vital infrastructure required specifically for this vulnerable concept phase. Our tools give you the mechanism to visualize, test, and validate those massive downstream consequences before a single physical commitment is ever made. Because design decisions are cheap as a sketch, but brutal once tooled. You have to see every angle before you build.